Hey, it's Ben Lieber, former professional football player. You know, as a linebacker, I know winning takes grit. It takes heart, and it takes a smart playbook put together by smart coaches. The same is true for personal injury litigation. That's why I trust the lawyers at Mesh, Besher and Spence. They know Minnesota's legal system, and they will fight to get you the compensation you deserve. If you've been injured on a job, in a car accident, or dealing with personal injury, call the lawyers at Mesh, Besher and Spence or visit meshbesher.com. That's meshbesher.com.
Why get all your holiday decorations delivered through Instacart? Because maybe you only bought 2 wreaths, but you have 12 windows. Or maybe your toddler got very eager with the advent calendar. Or maybe the inflatable snowman didn't make it through the snowstorm. Or maybe the twinkle lights aren't twinkling. Whatever the reason, this season, Instacart's here for hosts and their whole holiday haul. Get decorations from the Home Depot, CVS, and more through Instacart and enjoy free delivery on your first 3 orders. Service fees and terms apply.
The holidays are all about sharing with family. Meals, couches, stories, Grandma's secret pecan pie recipe. And now, you can also share a cart with Instacart's Family Carts. Everyone can add what they want to one group cart from wherever they are. So you don't have to go from room to room to find out who wants cranberry sauce, or who should get mini marshmallows for the yams, or collecting votes for sugar cookies versus shortbread. Just share a cart and then share the meals and the moments. Download the Instacart app and get delivery in as fast as 30 minutes. Plus, enjoy free delivery on your first 3 orders. Service fees and terms apply.
Garzi, let me start with a question rather than a leader proclamation. In the time we've been working together, have we ever put the state of basketball on probation?
I feel like we have.
Probably with the Wolves a million times.
Yeah.
But I don't think we have, because it was so bad they weren't even worthy of probationary status.
We've done emergency sports
exclusionary status.
Yeah, we've done emergency sports summits that I think had to do with basketball, at least in big part. But I don't think we've ever put the whole state of basketball on probation.
There's a lot of teeth gnashing today. A lot of fear and loathing out there. And then there's what the Timberwolves did yesterday or last night again in Portland. I honestly didn't know it was possible. Well, I'm guessing some of the old deliberate Wisconsin teams, University of Wisconsin teams, occasionally might have scored 14 points and a half.
Yeah.
But generally, if they did, they held the other team to 7. So it'd be halftime score. Wisconsin 14, Duquesne 7, right? Because their defense was just so it wasn't, I guess you could say, very stylish, but you say, well, are they ahead? Are they winning? That wasn't the case for your Golden Gopher team last night. I picked up a tweet from John Athletic in which I think the question he repeated was 14? Because that was the point total for the Gophers at halftime against something called, I think it's North Texas, isn't it?
The Green Wave.
Texas Green Wave, that's it. And I immediately, because I'm an ambulance chaser, said, what network's that on? So I went to the Big Ten Network. We weren't there. I went to, a bunch of others. I mean, I went to ESPN 4. I went to ESPN 6. I went to, on my DirecTV deal, it's $2.19. I don't know. I think that might be a Fox Basketballs. I checked CBS Sports, and I was disappointed because I think it turned out it was a Big Ten Plus game. There were like a million obscure games in college basketball last night on TV.
Yeah.
Like that you could get via a cable package or a dish package. The Gophers apparently were the one you couldn't. You had to go Big Ten Plus, which I'm not a subscriber. Are you?
I am, yes.
You probably do you get it for free?
I do not.
You should. Gophers should. University of Minnesota should provide that for you. Should be part of your deal.
Yeah, nothing is free anymore.
Well, that's true.
I just got along those lines, I just got resubscribed to one of my subscriptions to The Athletic. I noticed that just hit the credit card. I don't know which one that is. They might be charging me $500 a month, and I have no idea.
I
need to start checking it.
I'm with you on all of that.
So, yes, I didn't watch it on BTN Plus last night. I did listen on Twin Cities News Talk AM 1130, going back and forth from kids' practice, and could sense it wasn't going well with Grimm and Al Nolan. Could sense they didn't have a lot of action to describe.
So ultimately we lose, was it 54-51? So we have a veritable offensive explosion in the second half, but not nearly enough. And we lose to, I think this is our first loss against a non-power conference team in 9 years. I think 2015 was the last time. I don't remember who we lost to on that occasion. Now, we almost lost to Nebraska-Omaha. Was that Saturday?
Saturday, yeah.
I mean, that was a near miss as well. So an absolutely nightmarish night for a team that is programmed, that's still just trying to get, on the map and just sort of exist and sort of give you the sense, because last year there were times, okay, well, it looks like it's heading in a better direction. And then we changed like 18 players again, as we are wont to do, especially us, it seems, although Dawson Garcia is back, right?
Yes.
He played through injury. He, I think, announced that he will be a grandfather in like 6 months or something.
There's a silver lining. There's a silver lining to the game.
That's how long he's been in the program, it appears. I think this is it, right? Is this the last year for Dawson?
Yes, this is his last year.
So you got that early for the state of basketball in the state of Minnesota, where we know it's a very vulnerable program, the University of Minnesota men's basketball. Anyway, interest is limited at best, and you're in the part of the season where you figure, well, I think our schedule is considered one of the least challenging early. That may be about to change. I don't know. Awful. Just awful. Nothing positive that you can say about it. And then to add insult to injury, for basketball fans, there was the, I think, hope and belief that, well, there's no way the Timberwolves can lose again, right? I mean, they know they're on double secret probation, even with the head coach. They know that they've got to bring some urgency to the rematch against the Portland Trailblazers. And in fact, they played a pretty good first quarter.
Yeah.
The problem is it went away pretty quickly in quarter number 2, and then it was a slog the rest of the way. Is this a record, by the way? Has anybody looked this up? Because I believe we have been whistled for an 8-second violation 2 consecutive games.
That's got to be a record.
I can't believe it's not a record.
Yeah.
At this level, I really can't. I think the first night it was Randall, I believe. And then last night, wasn't it DiVincenzo?
I think it was, yeah.
Maybe the moral of the story is you do need a point guard on the floor because those guys aren't maybe accustomed to that, and they're just, okay, I'm just going to bounce the ball up the court. Everything's fine, and then the whistle blows. You shake your head on that, and maybe that really should be the declarative statement about where we are in the state of basketball. Professional basketball players for the second consecutive game could not get the ball up the court in time or forgot that rule existed. And last night, I felt bad for Finchy because I felt the look on his face was total, like, embarrassment, like shock, like, oh my God. I mean, what? Because he was kind of, when Finchy gets frustrated and nervous on the sidelines, he starts messing with his hair.
Yeah, which is usually perfectly coiffed.
And now it was going like 8 different directions. Yep. He's trying to move it back. He's trying to get the cowlick down, the whole bit.
He kind of widens his stance a little bit.
Yes, he does.
And kind of just to stabilize himself. I don't know if that's from the knee injury from last postseason, but he just kind of stands there. You're right. He's got a vibe when it's not going well. And the vibe was out there last night.
Portland had 3 of its top 7 players unavailable or didn't play them. They committed 19 turnovers. They only made, I believe, 9 threes.
Half of what they did the night before.
Half they did the night before, and they still beat us. For the second consecutive game, we've dropped 3 in a row, including the Miami game. And I tried to not, it's the deal of how do you thread the needle on reacting properly without overreacting? On the other hand, there's a danger of just saying, it's early, everything's fine, new players, etc. I'll say again, for Finchy, the only thing I think that can be redeeming about this horrific start to the season is it should be liberating for him into believing that anything and everything is on the table. Lineup-wise, rotation-wise, maybe even style-wise as well. I left yesterday's game drawing the conclusion that the Wolves can't live with Conley the way he's played early, but that they can't live without him either, because there were stretches where it didn't look like there was a point guard there. The kid came in, actually threw a number of passes. Unfortunately, people didn't make the shots.
Yep.
And again, I don't want to get into a big debate about the way the game is played, and you have to keep taking 3-point shots. But I absolutely I reject the notion that on a night like that where you're not hitting them, that there are not other ways to try to go about your business.
Totally.
I mean, it's just it's preposterous. That doesn't mean you go away from the algorithm. Doesn't mean you the rest of the season say we're going back to the Tibbs way. We're gonna put up like 8 3-pointers a game. I mean, the old Tibbs way. Tibbs his team's launching 3-pointers like everybody else, including Karl Anthony Towns. But there's nobody with any basketball intellect who can tell me that made any sense last night, and we're just jacking them up. One after the other, again and again and again. Sometimes, as you said yesterday, mindlessly, it's just almost like, well, that's what we're supposed to do, so let's do it. Let's just throw another 3 and hope we get a couple others in. I didn't check. How did we do at the free throw line? Do we have any free throws? I'm guessing we didn't, because all we did was jack threes again. It felt like
we were 17 of 22 from the line.
That's not horrible. That's a little better than I thought.
You're right.
But then wouldn't that tell you keep getting? How about trying to make it 30?
Yeah.
On a night where you can't hit a shot.
Portland was 21 of 23, and there was a stretch, and it might have been my only tweet last night. I tried not to.
You tried to restrain yourself after your explosion the night before?
Yeah, because they did, as you say, play better in the first quarter.
Except for when they didn't.
And then things got pear-shaped. But there was a stretch where it looked like to me Portland was doing everything it could to get downhill and get to the basket. They only took 25 threes last night after taking many more and making many more the night before.
Yes.
But there was a stretch where they were always at the rim, and it was just basically pick a Timberwolf, pop a shot from 3. It was just 3 after 3 after 3, and none of them were going in. And that's when Portland, again, kind of reestablished itself, and then you're in a ball game. And I know Finchy said we got some really good looks, and that's great. But I remember Richard Pitino talking about that, to bring it back to Gopher basketball, one of the years.
Did any of his teams ever score as few as 14 points in a half?
I'd have to go back and look.
Well, how about that time where he had to play with 4 players?
It was 3 players.
It was 3, that's right.
Against Alabama
3 players.
in Brooklyn.
I forgot about that. Yeah.
Let's be accurate. But I remember him saying, I mean, what am I supposed to tell them? They're open, and we believe in them, and they're putting the work in. It's like, well, at some point, they should just drive. At some point, you're open for a reason.
Mid-range.
Yeah. What's that?
Mid-range is okay. I saw Anthony Edwards do that a couple times. They were nice-looking shots.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid of the mid-range. Doesn't mean you're going to forget that you're supposed to throw up a bunch of threes the way the league is set up. I have some suggestions. I got some ideas. State of basketball early. Dr. Dan's inbox, 402. Russo Radio from the state of hockey, 502. Sean Salisbury is out, unfortunately, this week, or at least for today. What do you have?
The Fan and 2 men and a junk truck want to give you a shot to put $1,000 in your hand. It is our national cash contest, and the first keyword on this Thursday is dollar. Go to KFAN.com and enter the keyword dollar.
Hey, it's Ben Lieber, former professional football player. As a linebacker, I know winning takes grit. It takes heart, and it takes a smart playbook put together by smart coaches. The same is true for personal injury litigation. That's why I trust the lawyers at Mesh, Besher & Spence. They know Minnesota's legal system, and they will fight to get you the compensation you deserve. If you've been injured on a job, in a car accident, or dealing with personal injury, call the lawyers at Mesh, Besher & Spence or visit meshbesher.com. That's meshbesher.com.
Do we have any nagging concern that thus far this season, to add to the issues, we're seeing more the 2022 Rudy than we are the 2023 Rudy defensively? He himself, maybe in an effort to try to hold himself accountable, said, I didn't set the right tone defensively for either of these games. Who's the kid, the rookie they had that basically he was the Rudy last night. 8 block shots, 10 block shots?
Talking about Klingen?
Yes.
Yeah.
Rudy, I don't see the same defense out of him. Now, it goes beyond him, but I think it's another tentacle to the story that must be addressed. I'm also ready to make a change in the starting lineup. I think you bring in as a starter Nasreed, and you put Randall as whatever you want to say, your sixth man or your seventh man, depending on Dante. The question is how he would accept it, or would he accept it? I don't even think you have to put it on him as a demotion, but I'd like to see it. I think we'll all agree that Nas is not a perfect player. He's certainly not a perfect defensive player when he's not, when he has to guard consistently. Still got work to do there. But will we agree that he plays faster? I like the idea of, let's just see. I honestly think they have to think out of the box here. And by the way, any of the moves you make don't have to be permanent, right? The idea of, well, we got a lot of talent. We all agree we have a lot of talent, so we're gonna try maybe to create some different combinations and see how that goes. If you go back to when the trade was made, I said in the ideal world, that's what Randall would be from the beginning. I thought this team was better suited with Nas replacing Cat in the starting lineup, even though I know that was probably going to be a hard sell. But I want to see some different combinations. I want to see, again, whether maybe the club could play a little faster. And I guess I'm not convinced, as I mentioned, they kind of need Conley to rediscover himself, I think. Because I'm not sure this adds up without what he can do at his best. Now, the concern is maybe he can't do that anymore. Then where are you? I would say what I saw from Dilly was enough that you have to introduce consistently the element that he represents. I really do. I think that's an issue that they have to confront and talk about as well. I'm not saying he was perfect, and I know defensively he's going to get roasted. And you already got defensive issues. So are you adding to them there? Maybe. But, I mean, you saw that he can separate with such ease. And in this case, he was in the mode where he was looking for other people.
Yeah. Oh,
and they were all, they weren't like spectacular passes, but they were the right pass, right? He got the ball to other open people, often on the perimeter, and they just didn't hit shots. He could have had a bunch of assists there. But to me, what he represents, you almost have to find a way to make room for him on a consistent basis, not just on a night when Conley's not playing. Now, who else sits, and you can only play so many players? I get all of that, but they got a lot of, I think, really hard questions they need to confront that I think go beyond being, what are we now, 500 through 12, 6 and 6?
6 and 6.
6 and 6 through 12 games, which is not, it's not a horrible record. We would kill once upon a time for a 6 and 6 start to a season, but it's going the wrong way. I think Johnny had the stat. We didn't lose 3 in a row last year till the postseason.
Right.
That was our
one of their
first
calling cards.
3-game losing streak.
Yes.
Remember? Because
I do.
They meandered the first. They lost 2 out of the first 3. They had a mediocre game in Toronto and then a horrendous defensive game in Atlanta.
Yep.
And then they took off. Right. And very quickly after that, they were
the number 1 seed by like December.
Yeah.
And never really gave it up until late in the season.
Yeah, that's it. So I'll double down on the belief that they have to play more. He has to continue to play more people and not worry about egos and even consider some changes to the starting lineup as well. Now, I should add, I'm a big Dante guy. One warning I got from somebody in New York who also liked him said, just be cautious. Remember one thing about him. He is streaky. And you saw that. I mean, last night he couldn't hit a shot. He just couldn't hit a shot.
And he wasn't shy.
Which you say, well, that's how shooters, that's their mentality. They can't curl up in the fetal position. But we're seeing a little bit more inconsistency than I expected. And I don't know. I feel like even though we've all said, this is great. He can bring the ball up. Randall can bring the ball up. Naw can bring the ball. Yeah, maybe. I'm really not sure how often you're going to want to initiate the offense with them. And that gets back to Dilly, where I think, even though he's kind of considered a natural scorer, I do think he's, especially with the way he's trying to play, it might be more natural in that role. I'm not saying he's going to be able to settle them down when they're in a panic mode because he's so young, but I still feel like there's more of a natural point guard to what he does than really even any of those other guys, even though we get it. Randall can average 5 assists a game, and Dante can bring the ball up the court as well. Hopefully, inside 8 seconds, but that's another story.
They're just lost right now.
Yes.
A lot of them have the look of, we don't really know exactly what we're supposed to be doing. And that's on both ends. To me, the defense, that was the one thing you could count on every single night. There were so many games last year where it'd be the fourth quarter, it'd be a close game, and all of a sudden the team that they're playing would go 2 for 10. The Wolves would gobble up the rebound. They'd make enough shots because their offense wasn't super efficient a year ago. We talked about it all year. And this year it's just so easy. I know Rudy mentioned he hasn't set the right tone, but I don't think the perimeter defenders have helped much. Randall has helped none. There's been very few times where Randall has helped defensively.
That's correct.
Including, these last 2 games in Portland, there's times where he's just standing for essentially an entire possession. That's just not going to work.
No.
It's just not going to work against any of these teams. And they just look lost. Yeah. Everybody looks lost, and they're trying to figure out who's going to save them.
The other thing that's been pointed out elsewhere is Randall and really Nas, neither one of them is as big as Towns is. I mean, Towns is a bigger, I don't want to say more rugged player, because Randall's rugged, but he's just got more size to him. And again, last year took some pretty good strides defensively. Now he's getting roasted in New York on the defensive side. He continues to put huge numbers up in the box score offensively, but I think we're seeing a little of that as well. And I don't know. I mean, the Randall part that is concerning is that you say, when you mention standing around and casual defensively too much of the time, and then he'll have a 3-minute stretch where you go, oh, that's pretty good. But can you coach that into somebody? I don't know. That's starting to nag with me as well. It worries me a little bit. And, they obviously have to try to make it work because they can't rescind the deal. On the other hand, when the deal was made, you'll recall, there were people who said, well, part of this is Randall is kind of, we like him. No one in the Wolves said this publicly, but this was what was, I think, the feeling behind the scenes. We like him. We wouldn't make this deal if we don't like him, what he represents. But he's kind of on probation in a sense because of his contract situation. We may be saying all the right things. I want him here forever. He wants to be here forever. But one of the reasons the trade was attractive, allegedly, to the Wolves was it did give them a little bit more salary flexibility where you go, you know what? This is just not working the way we thought. he represents a contract that you might be able to send away, and maybe you get something back in return. I know that's not how anybody in this town wants to think. They want to think we're taking the next step.
Yep.
And I don't want to get ahead of it, but that's what concerns me.
What's weird about his contract is he's got a player option for next season.
Yes.
But I don't think he wants to have to pick that up. I mean, most of these guys,
he doesn't.
The player option is most attractive when you're like 37 and you're not going to get another big deal, and so you can go make your last $50 million. He wants an extension somewhere, does he not? So that's why it's weird, his lack of urgency. Like, if I were him, I would be doing everything I can on all sides, offense, defense, and special teams, to show people this is the player I am, because he could get another. Now, he's going to get a good payday wherever he goes.
Right.
It's the NBA. But if he wants to get probably what he feels like he's worth, it's strange to me that there's not enough urgency from him to show that you are going to be a guy that we can really count on to be a cornerstone, whether here or somewhere else. It's very strange.
This is we'll make this the bottom of the hour pause. I do want to get into some texts that have come in on the state of basketball. No Sean Salisbury today. The inbox will be open at 4:02. Still time for you to email guardsjg at KFAN.com. And one of the hottest teams in hockey will be featured prominently when Russo Radio joins us from the X. The Wild back in action tonight on the Fan against the Montreal Canadiens. We're out early to get Vikings programming in, and then that'll lead to Minnesota Wild hockey.
Hey, it's Ben Lieber, former professional football player. As a linebacker, I know winning takes grit. It takes heart, and it takes a smart playbook put together by smart coaches. The same is true for personal injury litigation. That's why I trust the lawyers at Mesh, Besher & Spence. They know Minnesota's legal system, and they will fight to get you the compensation you deserve. If you've been injured on a job, in a car accident, or dealing with personal injury, call the lawyers at Mesh, Besher & Spence or visit meshbesher.com. That's meshbesher.com.
Looks like you're going to get your wish, Guardsy. It looks more and more like your guy, RFK Jr., is going to get his big-time cabinet post as well. More on
Health
that.
Services guy?
Probably about 4:30 or so. We've got some interesting sound to play during that stretch. Bumper to Bumper is the name of the program. Short show today out at about 5:40 or so. Is that correct?
Yes.
To get extensive Vikings programming in ahead of Minnesota Wild. I mean, the beauty of the Wild start to this season, and we'll get into this with Russo, of course, is we've barely played at home. Right? And yet we sit here with, I think there's is it two teams that have more points than we do at this point? I mean, we're right up there. So you have to sustain it, obviously, but that's all been the bonus to spending as much time as and doing as well as the Wild have done on the road. The Montreal Canadiens, the opponent this evening. I assume I'll get to a couple of texts responding to our discussion to this point, but I assume you have a Netflix subscription?
Yes, we do.
Did I see that, and maybe you knew this, it got my attention. Netflix has almost 300 million subscribers.
That makes sense. Worldwide.
That's a lot, isn't it? Well, I guess that's true. It is worldwide. It's not necessarily just here. That's a good point.
Still a lot.
And I don't know. Is that down? Is that good? Everybody's downsizing? I have no idea. But it has come to my attention that I might be tempted. I'll admit it. I'm not necessarily proud of it, but I might be tempted in part because I don't have to pay extra for it. I already have Netflix.
Right.
To turn on Netflix Friday night to watch a live, quote-unquote, sporting event. It's the return of your guy at the age of 58.
That's insane to me.
Mike Tyson.
Iron Mike.
To the ring to take on somebody named Jake Paul, who is 31 years younger. He is described as a social media influencer who has disrupted the sport in recent years. I didn't even know he fought.
I caught wind of it. I'm not watching the All-22. I'm not locked in on every one of his fights, but I knew that's one of the things that he was up to.
It's an interesting resume on Jake Paul. For the record, he's got more than 27 million Instagram followers. Is that a lot? 27 million?
That's pretty good.
Is that good?
We're happy for him.
Okay. He apparently first became known for what are described as short videos on a social platform that no longer exists called Vine before it became YouTube.
Yep.
And he would reenact movie scenes. For example, eat spaghetti with a fork attached to a power drill, follow trendy dance moves, among other things, according to a New York Times piece. Made a big move to Disney Channel. I can't believe this. This is the background.
You got to go mainstream.
The guy's going to get in the ring. 2015, Disney Channel hired him for a role in Bizaardvark. Bizaardvark, a show that also helped accelerate the career of your gal, pop star Olivia Rodrigo.
Oh, yeah.
Olivia Rodrigo. More YouTube videos. A little bit more destructive, apparently, over years, like setting mattresses and furniture on fire.
Well, you have to keep raising the bar.
Apparently you do.
That's the danger of being a content creator.
He was known to surf behind the back of a pickup truck on a flooded street. Did a lot of those kinds of stunts. Apparently in 2017, they mutually said maybe it's over. His older brother, Logan Paul, parlayed his own social media career into a contract with World Wrestling Entertainment. He also hosts a podcast. And in 2018, Paul got into boxing as an amateur, won his first fight as a professional in 2020. His first win was against another YouTuber, Ali Al-Fakri.
Careful.
That's true. Referee stopped the match in the first round after Paul landed a flurry of punches. Then later that year, I missed all of it. Man, I missed the good old days of boxing. Later that year, Paul defeated Nate Robinson.
Former basketball
player? A retired professional basketball player. Knocked him out in the second round. His record, 10-1. Although the story suggests the quality of his competition is considered mixed. Many of his opponents, including Tyron Woodley and Anderson Silva, were aging mixed martial arts fighters. But Tyson and others have praised Paul for bringing new eyes to boxing. One of the fighters, they founded Most Valuable Promotions, a boxing promotional company. One of its fighters, Amanda Serrano, will face Katie Taylor on Friday in a rematch of a highly competitive championship fight. I think that's going to be on the undercard, if I'm not mistaken. It goes on from there. Am I a bad person if I say, yeah, I might actually tune this out? Again, because if it's a subscription you already have and you can, surf as easily as we can surf in this world, I'd say, I'll watch the Freak Show because that's how this comes off pretty much, right?
Yes.
I know you hate when I ask you about odds makers, but I mean, is Tyson favored despite his age because he's, he trained, he grew up as a heavyweight champion boxer? Is this simply, I assume it's for both of them, it's a bit of a money grab.
A bit of one, yeah, I would say. Well, BetMGM has the odds. Jake Paul is the favorite at -260.
Okay.
A Tyson win is +200.
Did I see also that the favorite, Paul, is basically has already bet all the money he's supposed to receive for this endeavor.
Oh, has he?
I guess that must be legal if that's how strongly he feels about himself.
If you bet on yourself, yeah, I think you can do it that way.
You can do it that way?
I think you can.
Yeah.
Some other boxers have done that in the past. Yeah, some other boxers have done that.
Will you watch it?
Well, I'll be in Tempe, Arizona, getting ready for Gopher women's basketball tomorrow night. So I don't know. Maybe. Sometimes at the hotels you stay, you can log into your Netflix there. I suppose I could just watch it on my phone. I'm intrigued by it, but the genius of it, though, because to answer your original question, no, you're not a bad person because they wouldn't have put this on if they didn't think millions of people were going to watch.
Yeah.
So there might be millions of bad people, and you might be including yourself in that. But I am kind of curious. But the genius of it is there's the Jake Paul generation, and then there's those of us. Yeah. I want to see what Tyson still got.
Me too.
I mean, you covered Tyson. I grew up with Tyson when he was this phenomenon and just came onto the scene, and all of his fights were box office, right? I mean, no pun intended. They were all on home box office or Showtime or whatever it was. He was box office for what, about a decade maybe? Maybe a little bit shorter than that before he went to prison.
Yes.
But then when he came out, he was box office as well.
He was.
You know, whether he was going against Lennox Lewis or Holyfield or whoever it was. So, yeah, I'm intrigued by it. I don't know if I'll watch it, but it's one of those things, if I'm sitting there and I remember, I might dial in because I am curious what the 58-year-old Mike Tyson still has. And they're wearing headgear.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you, because a couple people have said this thing is all set up to be hoax-like because they're really not going to go after each other in the way that one might associate with, a boxing match.
Yeah, or even like MMA.
Yeah,
or UFC.
Even that. Yeah.
But I think that's good because one guy's 58 and another guy is a YouTuber who's jumping into fighting.
I don't want to be bored, though. If it just looks like it's two guys,
like a pillow fight,
sparring or something. I mean, what? Yeah, you almost have to deliver something, don't you? I'm not asking anybody to die.
No, I think they will. I think Tyson can still bring it pretty hard, don't you?
Well, I don't know. He looks like he's in decent shape, but he's 58.
Yeah, there's that.
I mean, at some point, but I'm curious. I've got a lot of people responding like, will you watch it? Again, I can honestly say if it were a pay-per-view event, I would not spend,
Same.
I don't even think I'd spend $9.95 on it.
Same.
But
I'm not going out of my way.
No, if it's something I already got, I go, okay, well, just double check. Because I think Netflix, they've made it clear they want more live events, right?
Yeah.
They're interested in more live events. Was the Brady thing on Netflix?
Yes, and that was live.
That was live. Right?
And then Chris Rock did his, I think, on Netflix, his big show after the Will Smith debacle, that he built up for like a year. His special, I think, was streamed live. They had a pregame show. They had a postgame show. All these streaming services are trying to get into the live programming. We saw the news yesterday. Was it yesterday that Amazon Prime is going to be a spot where you can watch the FanDuel Sports Network, the new Bally?
Correct.
All these streaming services are looking for any way to separate themselves when it comes to live events and live programming. So I think we're going to see a lot of this.
8 2-minute rounds, is that correct?
Yes.
8 2-minute rounds. Take a minute to watch some recent Tyson training videos. He still has scary punching power, is the way Tim puts it.
I believe that.
Yeah, I certainly wouldn't be surprised by that. I know so little about the other guy, but then you look at the age, and he's been, training. Again, he's not a boxer in the classic sense, but then there's nothing that's classic about anything that's going on these days in any level, sports, politics, you name it. We're in a completely different era. But emailer 605 guy, Tyson's doing it for a paycheck. Paul's a good businessman. He will not box in any fight that requires a drug test.
Oh.
Is that true?
I guess. But how many fights require a drug test in 2024?
I thought, maybe I'm naive. I would have thought all of them do. No, they don't these days?
I don't know.
Yeah, maybe not.
Max would be the one to talk to about this. He's locked in on all the fighting.
Will he be? So he'll be watching this for sure.
For sure, he's watching it. Yeah.
Yeah. Really hope the fight isn't fixed. Definitely looking forward to seeing Tyson destroy Paul.
That's kind of the outcome I'd hope for, too. It's nothing against YouTubers, but it might be.
But this isn't going to turn into Tyson says, hey, why stop now?
A comeback?
Who's to say I can't get in the ring with others who maybe even more accomplished boxers? Or do you think even he knows there's, at this point, that he would get killed? Or would he? I think he would. 58, man.
Yeah, no,
I know he's not an ordinary 58-year-old.
But you even saw him at the end 15 years ago.
Yeah, and it was not good. It was not good.
It was not good. You only have so many punches. You can only take so many punches. And just the quickness, things atrophy. We all know that as we get older. You think about going up against the ring.
Tell me about it. Yeah.
As a 25-year-old or against a 25-year-old legitimate boxer, that would not end well for Iron Mike.
Call back to the Wolves discussion. This is Dave in Chicago. No need to get too upset about the Timberwolves. It was, after all, the second night of a back-to-back. Don't they call that a schedule loss? Matter of fact, first one was probably also a schedule loss, too, somehow. So it's all good. Can we
We should just start doing that for every loss.
For every loss, schedule loss. Or, like I said, is there anybody out there who really has the cojones to call the second game in the same city back-to-back a schedule loss? I mean, or do they have enough decency to say,
I think they have enough decency.
Use that term for that sort of situation?
No, yeah. Now, especially because they didn't even really play the night before. That was the cheap shot people were taking yesterday,
right.
Which, by the way, was apt. They didn't play. They didn't compete the night before. They should have been pretty fresh.
Well, yeah, sad but true. The only fight Jake Paul's lost was to Tyson Fury's younger brother, who actually has some experience in boxing. I believe he's still an amateur.
Tyson Fury's younger brother. AJ Barker's mom's best friend.
That's it. We're in a different world. Paul is for sure on PEDs. How do you know that? Do we know that, or does he say he is? Does he just acknowledge that he is?
He must be.
Is he, as the kids say, is he well built? Is he like, what's the term they use if you're cut like you're in great shape? What do the kids call it?
I mean, there's jacked, there's chiseled, he's a wagon. Yeah, I think he's in pretty good shape.
Well, I think I'm gonna. Yeah, I mean, I had to be reminded about it yesterday, and but I think I probably will. And if you grew up in the pay-per-view age, it was hard, and also grew up believing in boxing. It was hard not to feel like a sap because you pony up the $59.95, and the match would often be a joke.
Really?
And you'd say, well, I'll never do that again. And then 6 months would go by, and you go, hell.
You'd see Don King.
Exactly.
Yep.
And you go, all right. And you do it again. That was an age where I think it was sort of hard to feel good about yourself. If you continually were, railing away against these fraudulent events, these made-for-TV events, and yet you were so addicted to them, as some of us were, that we kept putting down the money for them. Now, eventually, I think most of us learned the lesson. I don't even know. Does pay-per-view even exist anymore in that sense for boxing?
Yeah. Well, I don't know about for boxing, but yes, for fights and things like that, yes.
Okay.
And you typically, you just pay your cable company or your streaming service or whoever it is.
Hendo in Minneapolis saying they're also wearing those giant gloves. What does that mean?
They're wearing
like clown
bigger
gloves?
Well, I don't know if they're clown gloves, but they're bigger boxing gloves than normal, apparently.
So it sounds as if they are trying to ensure that nobody dies, which I guess is overall probably a good thing.
Yeah, I think so.
But then it's boxing. If there's not considerable violence, most of us are going to feel disappointed. Not proud of it, but that's the fact. That's what brings us to it's the Tyson power, right? And whether there's anything left of that, whether he can't even move as well as he once did. And then again, I have not seen the youngster.
You gonna maybe do some scouting tonight?
Do some scouting.
There's no Wolves game to hate watch, so you could do something else. The pay-per-view days now there is still pay-per-view, but back then that was like the only way you could get anything. I remember having to go over to friends' houses for the North Stars playoff run.
That's right.
In 91 for pay-per-view, which is hilarious to think about now.
Nuts.
But it was a big deal and also HBO, the premium channels felt much more premium. Like you really had to know somebody that was doing well to have HBO or Showtime back in the day, right? They felt so inaccessible that if somebody had HBO, it was like, we can go watch the fight here. I remember that for one of the big fights in the late 90s. I remember we had to go to a kid's house. Had to call and invite ourselves over because there was a fight. It had to have been a Tyson fight.
Did they charge you?
I don't know, but I could tell they were bitter that I had called. It was one of those where we weren't super close.
Yeah.
But you got to do what you got to do. Rolling Green's a tough neighborhood to get into in Edina, so you got to make the call every once in a while.
I guess you just got to
Hey, I hear you're watching the fight. You mind if a couple dozen of us come over?
It's called swallowing your pride, I think.
Or having no pride.
Or having no pride whatsoever.
Shame, which I drew short stick that day that I had to make the call.
The inbox is coming up. Dr. Dan's inbox, Russo Radio, about an hour from now from the X, where the Wild will be back in action against Montreal.
Hey, Ben Lieber here, former professional football player. When it comes to car accidents, personal injuries, or getting hurt on the job, yep, been there, the lawyers you choose makes a huge difference. And for football fans, Mesh, Besher, and Spence have been the lawyers to trust for over 60 years. They know Minnesota's legal system and have the playbook to get you the compensation you deserve. If you've been injured, car accident, personal injury, or hurt on the job, call Meshbesher and Spence. They'll get you on the field fast. Just head over to meshbesher.com. That's meshbesher.com.
Why get all your holiday decorations delivered through Instacart? Because maybe you only bought 2 wreaths, but you have 12 windows. Or maybe your toddler got very eager with the advent calendar. Or maybe the inflatable snowman didn't make it through the snowstorm. Or maybe the twinkle lights aren't twinkling. Whatever the reason, this season, Instacart's here for hosts and their whole holiday haul. Get decorations from the Home Depot, CVS, and more through Instacart and enjoy free delivery on your first 3 orders. Service fees and terms apply.
The holidays are all about sharing with family. Meals, couches, stories, Grandma's secret pecan pie recipe. And now you can also share a cart with Instacart's family carts. Everyone can add what they want to one group cart from wherever they are. So you don't have to go from room to room to find out who wants cranberry sauce, or who should get mini marshmallows for the yams, or collecting votes for sugar cookies versus shortbread. Just share a cart and then share the meals and the moments. Download the Instacart app and get delivery in as fast as 30 minutes. Plus, enjoy free delivery on your first 3 orders. Service fees and terms apply.